You're experiencing something right now. You're hearing these words, hearing ambient sound, maybe traffic, maybe the hum of a fan or an air register. You're feeling the pressure of your body against whatever you're sitting on, or at least now you are. And somewhere in all of that, there's a sense of you, the thing that's noticing. Try to stop experiencing, not by closing your eyes or covering your ears. Just turn it off. Become unconscious while remaining awake. Can't do it, can you? Consciousness is the one thing you can't get away from, and somehow we have no idea what it is. We can map every neuron, measure every chemical, track every electrical signal, but we can't explain why any of that feels like something. Welcome to the hard problem. This is Theoretical Nonsense, and I'm Jake Vance. And before we talk about near-death experiences or out-of-body perception or any of the weird phenomena we're going to explore in this series, we need to answer a simpler question. What do we mean when we say consciousness? Because if you can't define the thing you're studying, you're not doing science, you're doing word association. So today isn't about brains dying or psychic spies, it's about the most basic mystery of all. Why is there something it's like to be you? Let's start with the obvious. Right now there's an experience happening, not just information processing, experience. The redness of red, the pain of a stubbed toe, the taste of coffee, the feeling of embarrassment. Philosophers call these qualia, the subjective, first-person qualities of conscious experience. And here's the thing, you can't explain them. Let's say I want to explain the color red to someone who's been blind since birth. I can tell them, red light has a wavelength of about 650 nanometers. True, useless. I can say, when red light hits your retina, it activates L cones more than M cones or S cones. Also true, still useless. I can map the neural pathway, show the fMRI, describe every mechanistic step, and still not convey what red feels like. Because feels like isn't in the data. That's the explanatory gap, the gap between describing the mechanism and explaining the experience. And it might not be a gap we can close, because the explanation and the experience seem to be fundamentally different kinds of things. In 1995, philosopher David Chalmers gave this puzzle a name, the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems, still brutal, just solvable, are about function, how we process vision, recognize faces, integrate data, control movement. Those we can explain mechanistically, stimulus in, computation, behavior out. The hard problem is, why does any of that feel like something? Why aren't we just sophisticated input-output machines, philosophical zombies, behaving normally with nobody home? We can imagine a brain doing everything your brain does, processing, responding, reporting, I see red, but doing it in the dark, with no inner life at all. So why is someone home? And if you can't answer that, you don't understand consciousness. You understand brains, which isn't the same thing. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, mathematician, philosopher, co-inventor of calculus, and in general a kind of pain in the ass to Isaac Newton, had an insight most people missed for 3 centuries. Consciousness isn't a light switch, it's a ladder, not on or off, present or absent, but graduated. He proposed levels of awareness. Level 1 is sensation and response. A bacterium moves toward sugar, away from toxins. Is that consciousness? A thermostat turns on the heat when it gets cold. We don't call that conscious. Where do you draw the line? Level 2 is representation of experience. A frog doesn't just react, it has an internal model of fly. It can anticipate, miss, learn. Now there's a model of the world inside the organism, representation, not reflex. Level 3 is representing the representation, or you could say metacognition. A dog doesn't just know where the ball is, it knows that it knows. That's the birth of the self. To think about thinking, you need a subject, an I. Level 4 is symbolic language and abstract thought. Humans, and maybe some AIs, but let's not muddy the water too much at this point yet. But humans can think in symbols, talk about talking, philosophize about philosophy. Language lets us represent representations of representations. It's the virtual machine running on top of the neural hardware. We can discuss things that don't exist, unicorns, justice, the Seattle Mariners in the World Series, or imaginary numbers. So is that the ceiling, or is there a level 5? Are we at the angel stage? Are we fully consciously leveled up? Or are we just angels with assholes? The hierarchy matters because it stops 2 mistakes: thinking animals are humans in fur coats, or that they're zombies. A cat isn't plotting revenge, it's level 2 or 3 at best, but that doesn't mean it's not experiencing something. And it matters for this series because different phenomena might access different levels. Near-death experiences might bypass the embodied self but keep metacognition. Out-of-body perception might operate at level 3 without level 4 language. Remote viewing might tap level 2 representation without full self-awareness. People also confuse consciousness, attention, and awareness. They are not the same. Attention is the spotlight. Right now you're attending to these words, not the hum in the room. That is, until I mentioned it. You were conscious of it the whole time, you just weren't attending. Attention is selective. It's the zoom lens. Awareness is the wide-angle lens. It's everything you could attend to. Consciousness is the fact that the camera's even on at all. And consciousness can exist with almost no content. Deep meditation, certain drugs, even near-death states of pure awareness. Which is annoying philosophically because it means consciousness might not be about anything. It just is. The embodied self. The feeling you're located in your body behind your eyes, that's the temporoparietal junction, the TPJ. Disrupt it and the self dissolves. You float above your body, watch from outside. Consciousness persists, but location changes. So embodiment isn't consciousness, it's a component. The narrative self, the story you tell, your name, your history, your personality, you weren't born with it, you built it, and the brain edits it constantly. You're an unreliable narrator of your own life. The minimal self, the bare sense that something is experiencing, no memory, no story, just awareness itself. That's what meditators call pure consciousness, the thing that remains when everything else goes. Some suggest we even carry multiple selves, internal models of others running in our heads. I have a version of you in my head. We're machines made of ghosts. Carl Jung broke consciousness into 4 functions: thinking, meaning logical analysis and reasoning; feeling, like value judgments or what matters; sensing, or direct sensory perceptions; and finally, intuiting, things like hunches or pattern recognition. Different people emphasize different functions. All of them are aspects of consciousness. Jung had a lot of ideas. Most were brilliant. Some were, let's call them, ambitious. This one is particularly useful. If you want to find consciousness in the brain, look for neural correlates, or NCCs. What are NCCs? The definition reads as the minimal neural mechanisms jointly sufficient for any specific conscious experience. In other words, what brain activity matches up with conscious experience? The best candidate is the posterior cortical hot zone, the temporoparietal occipital junction. That's where vision, space, and self converge. Activity there tracks closely with conscious experience. Damage here disrupts specific conscious contents. For instance, if the visual cortex is damaged, you have no visual consciousness, also called cortical blindness. But what about the frontal lobes? Surprising finding, massive prefrontal damage often doesn't eliminate consciousness. Phineas Gage remained conscious after railroad spike through frontal lobe. Frontal lobotomies destroyed personality, but not consciousness itself. This suggests frontal areas are important for access to consciousness, reporting, metacognition, but maybe not phenomenal consciousness itself, so the correlation is definitely the posterior hot zone. But correlation isn't explanation. When the car starts after you turn the key, you don't say the key caused the engine, but it did trigger it, so maybe neurons trigger consciousness, or stranger still, maybe they filter it. Because if region X lights up when you see red, that doesn't mean X causes the redness experience. Sort of like how TV screens light up when showing a movie, that certainly doesn't mean the screen creates the movie, it just displays it. So we know consciousness exists. We know it has a structure, Leibniz hierarchy. We know it correlates with brain activity, but we still don't know what it is or where it comes from. So now we're going to briefly cover 4 serious attempts to answer that. We'll explore these in more depth later in the series. First up, Sir Roger Penrose, mathematician, mathematical physicist, philosopher of science, and Nobel laureate in physics, and Dr. Stuart Hameroff, a clinical anesthesiologist and director at the Center for Consciousness Studies at the University of Arizona. Their theory is called ORC-OR, and it says that consciousness arises from quantum collapses in microtubules. Not computational, but quantum. If true, then awareness is physics waking up. Consciousness is quantum mechanics doing something weird in your neurons. The theory is highly controversial, but there's been more experimental support than any other theory of consciousness yet. Second to bat, Federico Fagin, the inventor of the microprocessor. His theory of quantum information panpsychism says consciousness is a fundamental quantum information field outside spacetime. Your body is a drone, your consciousness is the pilot. You're not in your body is in consciousness. The theory is popular, but it's philosophical and experiential, limited empirical testing. Third, Bernardo Kastrup, PhDs in computer engineering and philosophy, CERN scientist. And his theory of analytic idealism, reality is mind. Matter is what mind looks like from the outside. Brain doesn't generate consciousness, it localizes it. Reality is conscious, you're what it looks like from one perspective. His theory is more like a growing philosophical movement, and it's very hard to test empirically. And finally, batting cleanup, Donald Hoffman, PhD in computational psychology from MIT and professor of cognitive sciences at the University of California, Irvine, and his interface theory, space-time is a user interface, reality underneath conscious agents. Evolution didn't shape us to see truth, it shaped us to just see what keeps us alive and uneaten. His trace logic is a serious mathematical theory and is empirically testable in principle. They disagree on mechanism but agree on one thing. Consciousness isn't generated by brains. Brains organize it, localize it, maybe filter it, but they don't create it, which means near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, remote viewing. Maybe they're not supernatural in the traditional sense of what supernatural means to us. Maybe they're just different modes of access. So why does this matter? Because if you don't define consciousness, you can't investigate it. Assume materialism and everything beyond the skull is hallucination. Assume idealism and everything is mind. Either way, you stop thinking. And the data won't let us do that. We need a framework that takes the brain seriously, but doesn't reduce mind to it. That allows levels that separate self, attention, and awareness. That's what this episode is. It's the toolkit for everything next. Whatever consciousness is, whether it's neurons, quantum fields, or fragments of universal mind, the undeniable fact is you're experiencing it right now. You're here, aware. Thinking about being aware. That's meta-consciousness, and that makes you part of the mystery. Consciousness isn't something out there we're studying. We are consciousness, studying itself, which is either beautiful or deeply suspicious, or both. So as we move into the evidence, as we cover near-death experiences, or NDEs, the out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, the physics, the more out there scientific facts, and the unprovable theories, remember, you're not just studying consciousness from the outside. You're the thing trying to understand itself. I'm Jake Vance. Next time, when the brain flatlines and consciousness doesn't. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense. Thanks for paying attention, and thanks for being curious.